Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Be Well, Be Keto. And today is part 2 of my interview with Carrie Brown. We had so much to talk about in part 1 that we decided to schedule one back to back. And if you don't know her, which be surprised if you didn't, Carrie is a food and lifestyle blogger, best known for her cookbooks and awesome recipes. She's actually written 6. She's a podcast co-host, photographer, and she has the cutest little British accent ever. She has healed herself from bipolar disorder, adrenal fatigue, and the recent one was Lyme's disease. And she's just such a lovely person. I really adore Carrie. So let's just go and say hello.
Welcome to the Be Well, Be Keto podcast, where we showcase ordinary people who have achieved extraordinary results. Your host is the high energy girl, health coach, and personal trainer, Tracy Gluhite.
If there is a way that you could literally turn back the hands of time, have a better mood, more energy, libido, greater muscle tone, improved memory, healthier hair, skin, nails, I know I want healthier skin, lose the chicken neck, better joint flexibility and mobility, some fat loss, especially around the midsection, increased strength and bone density without having to swallow a bunch of pills. If there was a way that you could have all these benefits, would you want to know about it? Well, the answer is here. We have the only FDA-registered transdermal, over-the-counter human growth hormone product. To check out some juicy details, head on over to highenergygel.com. This podcast contains the opinion and thoughts of its host and guests. It is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subjects covered. All statements made on the podcast have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. If the listener requires professional assistance or advice, please contact your personal medical doctor. Both host and guest specifically disclaim any responsibility for any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the contents of these episodes. Like I said, this is my opinion and I could be wrong. Hey, thanks Carrie for coming back to another part 2 of our episode.
You're a brave woman. Well, you're either brave or stupid, and I'm going with brave.
I'll say a little of both, okay? Truly a little of both.
You signed up for 2 episodes with me.
Well, I like hearing you talk. So many of us like to fake that we can talk that way, but it's just, it's not possible. So
There's me. I just can't help it.
I know. It's so cute. When you live in California, that you have no accent, so everyone else, like you can pick up. I interviewed somebody yesterday who she lived in Maine, but she had a South Carolina accent. It was so weird. But that's her mom was from South Carolina, so she had that thing about that there's a lot of things that you have that keto can't cure. Can we kind of go to that space?
Yes, and I think it's super, super, super important for anybody who is on keto or is looking at doing keto. We need you all to understand that keto is not magical. There's a lot of things that keto can absolutely reverse, heal, help. But I don't want people to think that keto is this magical unicorn of a lifestyle that will heal everything that could possibly ail you. And it's almost like the universe has made me the poster child for having things that can't be healed by keto.
Yeah, well,
and so I'll explain what I mean. So going back to the last episode where we talked about my bipolar, eating keto alone would not have put me in the place I am now, where I've been completely unmedicated for 3 years and had no symptoms for 3 years. And the reason is that part of the reason for my bipolar was that I have a genetic mutation called MTHFR. No level of ketones ever on its own could have changed that mutation.
Right.
What was necessary for me for that mutation to stop playing havoc in my life was to take methylated B vitamins. That is not going to be the answer to everybody who has bipolar. You're not going to have exactly the same answer as me. But for me, so when I say just eating keto, I needed methylated B vitamins to nourish my brain. Keto alone would not have done that because keto is not methylated B vitamins. So that's what I mean when I say keto isn't magical. It helps with an unbelievable number of illnesses and common and diseases, particularly things like heart disease and diabetes and things like that. And it helps, it lessens the symptoms of a whole bunch of things. But there are still a significant number of things that cannot be fixed by keto alone. And I am, as I say, I think I have been made the poster child for those things. Maybe because so that you all had someone to look at and go, oh, yeah, keto's awesome, but there might be some other investigating I need to do.
Right.
So that's kind of that's the drum I'm beating.
And I agree with that totally. That's why you inspired me to get the 23andMe kit. So I got that because I just want to be the best version of myself as I possibly can be. And so thank you for that because I already got it.
You know, if I could make this happen in my lifetime, I could die a truly happy woman. And that would be when you go into the hospital to have a baby and they give you a baby and then they give you the DNA report for the baby. Like just test, the baby comes out, you take a spot of blood, you get a baby with the DNA.
That's perfect.
Right? Because for MTHFR, for example, they think that 30% or a third of the people of the population have the MTHFR mutation. If we knew that, my life, if I'd have known I had MTHFR when I was born, my life would have been completely different and better. And I wouldn't have spent most of my life being depressed, having a brain that was trying to kill me, spending untold amounts of money on psychiatrists and psychotherapists and pharmaceuticals. My life would have been completely different. And it's a test. You can have the MTHFR test done. I think it's like $150. Like if you're spending $20,000 to have a baby, like just add $150 on, right, and get a DNA test, or do the 23andMe. It's like whatever it is, $99. Just so that if I ruled the world, all babies would get their DNA done the next day and provide the parents with the report that they can. I mean, the parents then choose whether they do anything or not, but you get the DNA. That would be my dream world.
I mean, I think that's brilliant. Why not? Seriously, think about the insurance companies, how much money they would save on healthcare costs if they did that. Right. That's something they should to prevent disease instead of treat disease. Right?
Right. But even if you paid it, right, if my parents had spent $150 getting my DNA back then, I would have saved tens of thousands. I mean, it's probably hundreds of thousands of dollars that I've spent on various forms of medical care throughout my life that could have been prevented had I known that I had MTHFR and taken the prerequisite methylated B vitamins to nourish my brain so that it never went sideways in the first place.
That would be perfect. Well, I'm excited to see what mine comes out at because my mom has Alzheimer's and Hashimoto's. My dad has had cancer probably 4 times. And so far, I have 53 this weekend, but knock on wood, I haven't had any issue.
To explain to people that when you're looking at genetics, there's a difference between having a mutation and the mutation expressing itself. So this is a great example. I know you know and love Danny Vega, Tracy. And Danny Vega and we're like brother and sister from another mother. We love each other. So Danny got his DNA done. Danny has the exact same MTHFR profile as I do, but Danny doesn't experience any of the symptoms that I do. Danny hasn't struggled with bipolar. Danny. So this is a perfect way of showing people that know my story and then people that know Danny. We had the same MTHFR mutation, but none of the symptoms have expressed themselves yet in Danny. And like all of them have expressed themselves in me. So there is a difference between having the mutation and the mutation, like the switch getting flipped on and that mutation acting out. So just because, and when you get your DNA report and you're looking at it, don't look at it and go, oh my God, I'm going to get all of these things. What the DNA is telling you is that you have a higher propensity, your genetics, you've got all these wrinkles. People with those wrinkles, these are the symptoms that may start to happen. So it's you're at risk of, not you are going to have bipolar. It could be you're at risk of. And, and so various factors in my life switched on that gene and made it start expressing all the bad symptoms that we call bipolar. So, but yeah, Danny and I have the same MTHFR profile. And yet you can see there's a dramatic difference in what expresses from that gene in Danny's life versus what expresses in mine.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Things I've struggled with that keto couldn't fix. Another huge one, probably the second biggest medical issue I've faced in my life, is Lyme disease. So, if you're over on the West Coast, you might never even heard of Lyme disease because it started in Lyme, Connecticut, which is actually why it's called Lyme, because they first figured out that it was a thing and named it after the town Lyme, Connecticut, which is just down the road from me. So that was kind of interesting. I just moved here. Shortly after I moved here, I found out that I had Lyme disease. I didn't get Lyme disease while I was in Connecticut. We think I've had it for 6 years. We think I got it in Georgia 6 years ago. But I found out that I had Lyme disease just after I moved to Connecticut earlier this year. And Lyme disease, if you don't know what it is, it's horrible. It's transmitted. It's a bacterial infection. It's a spirochete bacterial infection, which causes an unbelievable number of horrible, horrible symptoms to varying degrees, depending on how long you've had it, whether you got treated early, and how good your body is at fighting infection. But it's actually the bacteria is from mice, but it's carried by ticks. It's carried by deer ticks. So and ticks are tiny, and you go out in the woods or wherever, and a tick bites you. And that's how the bacterial infection is transmitted. Yeah. Now, I was incredibly lucky that 4.5 months after I started getting all the symptoms of Lyme disease, I was introduced to someone who was being treated for Lyme. He introduced me. He was actually the guy that came to take some old trees down in my yard that needed taken down before they destroyed my house. He had Lyme, and he introduced me to the person who was treating him for Lyme. I went to see her. 2 months later, I am now free of Lyme. So I kind of went from 0 to 60 in 2 months. So I was diagnosed with Lyme on July 25th. And I was retested on October 1, and I am now free of Lyme.
Wow, that's really fast, Carrie, isn't it?
Which is really, really, really fast. So I am super, super, super lucky that I just happened to find the right tree dude at the right time. And I happened to live 20 minutes from this lady who got rid of my Lyme. So, but the point I wanted to make is that there's a misconception, or a growing misconception, that keto will stop Lyme. And the misconception is that because there's no sugar in Lyme, because there's no sugar on keto and there's no carbs, that you starve the Lyme. That's the misconception. And it's a half a misconception. People think that by starving the spirochete, you're actually getting rid of the Lyme disease, and you're not. So Lyme does help with the symptoms because you're not feeding the bacteria. You're not getting the symptoms because it's not thriving and, bouncing around and growing and all of that. So the symptoms are typically very, very, very reduced or gone on keto, but you haven't killed the spirochete. And one of the nastiest things about Lyme is that it has the ability to change its own DNA. So when it's not in an environment where it can thrive, it morphs into a cyst form, and it kind of goes undercover. And it will just stay in your body in a cyst form until such time as the environment is good for it to come back out and start creating havoc again. So I understand where the misconception comes from, because if you're on a keto diet and you have Lyme, you will magically find that a lot of your symptoms will either disappear or get a lot less. So it's human and typical to believe that you've actually got rid of the Lyme. You haven't. You've just put it into remission. Or it kind of creates this thing called a biofilm, and it hides in the body. And so you still need to kill the spirochete. You still need to get rid of the Lyme. So that's another instance where keto alone is not going to get rid of Lyme. It super helps with the symptoms, but you still need something else on top of the keto to get rid of the Lyme. Does that make sense? Antibiotics have always ended up being really, really bad news for me. One of the reasons for that is that the MTHFR mutation that's implicated with my bipolar, one of the other things that happens often when that gene expresses itself is that I have a very, very, very reduced ability to detox. So for me, my liver just doesn't, in a normal person's liver, that's where your body detoxes all the crap, all the chemicals and the food and the, everything, things you breathe in, things that come into your body anyhow. The toxins are neutralized in your liver. My MTHFR status genetically means that I have a very reduced ability to detoxify. So it's like toxic city, my body, because I can't clear the toxins out. So I need a lot of help with that. So I have to do all the weird woo-woo things that some people laugh about on the internet, because cleansing from an external source is a big, big thing for me. So, magnesium flake and Epsom salt and baking soda baths, far infrared sauna, some of the herbs and supplements you can use to help your liver detox, liver support. Those are all really, really critical things for me and people like me with the MTHFR mutation that can't detox. And, I one of the things that really bothers me about the internet is that, all the people that go, cleanses are dumb, you don't need to detox, you've got a liver. There's a third of us that actually really do need all that, because our livers genetically don't have the same detox pathways, or they're not very effective as the rest of you. So yeah, not everybody needs all of this, but people like me really do. So that's why antibiotics for me have always ended up having some kind of weird thing that was worse than what the antibiotics were trying to get rid of in the first place, and in large part because I have this reduced ability to detox. So I did not go the antibiotic route. It's also becoming clear, in most of the Lyme experts will now tell you that long term the antibiotics they use for Lyme do not work very well or at all. So antibiotics is not the way to go. There's a lot of different ways of dealing with Lyme. But I went to see a homotoxicologist who is and she also does bioenergetics. So that was why when you said, when we were chatting about bioenergetics, she also does bioenergetics. But she's a homotoxicologist. There's only, as I understand it, I think there's only about 100 homotoxicologists in the country. So they're a rare breed, but they do, and I don't claim to understand how it all works, but they test for all the common toxins. So I went to see her because I didn't know what was wrong with me, and she tested me, and I had Lyme. I had some Lyme co-infections. I had various parasites. I had an E. coli infection. I had massive levels of mercury in my body. I had high levels of arsenic. I had pinworm. I had systemic candida. I have Epstein-Barr virus. I mean, this is the Hotel California of like the parasite, virus, bacteria world here, right here in my body.
Hotel
right?
California.
And so I tested positive for all of that. And then she uses some supplements and some specialized homeopathic remedies, so drops. And 2 months later, we haven't cleared everything. And we weren't working on everything at the same time. So we got rid of the Lyme. And I also went to see a naturopath about my genetic status. And she did blood tests and corroborated that I had Lyme. So I know that, I think what homotoxicologist does could be seen as a little bit woo-woo. But I had blood tests. I wasn't checking up on her, but my naturopath took a whole slew of blood tests because we were looking at my DNA and various things that were going on. And she asked for Lyme tests as well. And then and so she corroborated by blood tests that what the homotoxicologist had told me was true. And now I've tested negative for Lyme, both the homotoxicologist and the blood test. So I know I'm free of Lyme now. So whatever she did, it worked because I had it and now I don't. So now we're working on the Candida, the Epstein-Barr virus. I think I still have Babesia, which is one of the Lyme co-infections. My mercury levels are way lower than they were. She made me go and have my last mercury amalgam taken out. That's a special procedure so that you don't inhale all the mercury when they're drilling it. You have to go see a dentist who's a specialist in removing old amalgams. So I did that. We're now pulling the remaining toxic levels of mercury in my body out as well. So there's still a lot going on, but to say I feel better than I did a month ago is the biggest understatement, because when you have Lyme, I was so fatigued I could barely get out of bed. I was having migraines at least every other day. I was nauseous all the time. I had weird pains in my neck. It was classic Lyme symptoms, and they're all almost completely gone now. My energy levels are back to normal. It's literally was a miraculous change, and no antibiotics. I can't. I never asked. So when you go to, and she can also do this by hair. You don't have to go see a homotoxicologist. You can send hair, and they can test your hair to get all the levels of all the things in your body. And I don't understand how that works. But she's in a town that's near me, so I went in, and she has a device that's about the size of a computer, and it has an electronic probe, which she puts on your skin. And I don't understand how it works, but given that we corroborated it with blood test, and given the complete change in my health, since I took all the remedies and the fact that I now don't have Lyme, I kind of don't really care.
It's crazy, but it's based on physics. And well, I have one on order and one here. It's the Source Energy. It does like vitamins and then recommended that are like basically homeopathic, but they're, I'm going to say this wrong, but it's kind of water. And then there's a device that I just bought. The pain dissipates in like 3 to 5 minutes. Body, instead of a physician, usually looks at one piece. You know, this like does a whole, and to me, it's kind of based on, kind of Chinese medicine, but it's based on physics.
Other benefits of taking, if you have Lyme, or you think you have Lyme, or you know someone who has Lyme, I just beg you to find a homotoxicologist, because this whole process maybe costs me $350, like the whole thing from start to finish, the testing, the follow-up, and including the homeopathic and the supplements. Like, I think I'm maybe the only person on earth who's only spent $350 in 2 months getting rid of their Lyme disease. I mean, it's just like everybody needs to know about this. And I know that it sounds a bit woo-woo, but I can't tell you other than the complete turnaround in my health and the fact that I tested positive for Lyme traditional method, i.e. blood, but also with the homotoxicologist, and now I'm testing negative in both over here. So I'm living proof that it works, and I would just encourage anybody who has Lyme to find a homotoxicologist and just get it taken care of, because you don't need to suffer. There are people who have had Lyme for 5, 10, 15 years who are completely disabled, who aren't able to work, I mean, there's Lyme people who end up in wheelchairs. Lyme disease is absolutely famous for causing neurological problems.
Oh, yeah.
It's horrible, horrible disease.
Yeah, I have a friend who had it
There's a solution.
My friend that lives local here in California, she suffered for over a year. Just suffered. So, yeah, that's really good. And then tell me about, did you have adrenal fatigue? Did I hear that somewhere, somehow?
I did. Adrenal fatigue. And I know that if there's any traditional medical professionals listening, they're all rolling their eyes now. I can hear them, because a lot of them don't think that adrenal fatigue is a thing. They'll tell you it's not a thing. So I don't care what people want to call it, but when you do all the saliva testing, there's a testing to see how your adrenals are functioning, and you spit in a tube like 5 or 6 times over 24 hours, so that, and they're all labeled, and you send them all off. So they give you an actual profile of your cortisol levels over the course of the day. And when I had that done, you could see, and I don't care what they want to call it, but you could see my cortisol levels were all at the wrong place at the wrong time of day, which basically meant that I couldn't function. I mean, I was literally, I would wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I would literally be exhausted to the point of face planting my desk by 9 a.m. because my cortisol level, which kind of helps with your energy levels and giving you energy at the right time of day and night, was completely out of whack because my adrenals couldn't function. So call it adrenal fatigue, call it something else if you don't think adrenal fatigue is a thing. But what I mean by adrenal fatigue is that your cortisol levels are all at the wrong levels at the wrong time of day. And I have had adrenal fatigue. In fact, I've had it twice. I've just had my adrenals tested, and they are all where they're supposed to be right now. So I also know that my adrenals were all upside down, and now they're not. And taking, and again, but this is something that keto alone is not going to fix, because you actually need an adrenal extract. That's not the right word. But it's actually, you actually take like bovine adrenal stuff. I can't remember the name of it, and I haven't got a bottle near me to check. But you actually take special supplements that will support your adrenals and get them back to functioning properly and then producing cortisol at all the right times. That, again, keto can't do that. Keto's fantastic, and it will certainly help with some of the symptoms, because typically you have a lot more energy on keto because you're not having all the dips and troughs of the sugar roller coaster. But it won't make adrenal fatigue go away. You have to have some help in terms of supplementation to get your adrenals actually back on track. So there's just one more example where keto helps, will lessen the symptoms, but you still need to do some other investigating on top of keto to fully recover and get your body working the way it should.
Now, I always recommend people, like, I know, oh, look at that fat kitty cat.
This is Mr. McHenry, and he's a ragdoll. Ragdoll, yeah. He's aware of that.
Oh. So, Carrie, tell us about your professional life. What is up for you right now?
So I'm the first thing I do is I create recipes for people doing low carb and or keto diet. So I create recipes. I have a blog where I post recipes. I also author keto cookbooks. So I have 6 keto cookbooks out now. So that's the main part of what I do. However, and I am, if you remember from part 1, if you listen to it, that I'm a pastry chef by trade.
Of course.
So I do actually know what I'm doing. I'm just not using all the ingredients that I was trained to use, but I do actually, I know a bit about food. So I do develop recipes for low carb keto people. And as I say, I have 6 cookbooks out now.
Wow.
And I'll rattle them off. The keto ice cream scoop. I am probably one of the things I'm most famous for is being the keto ice cream goddess. My ice creams taste. A lot of people will tell you that my ice creams taste better than the premium brands of regular ice cream like Haagen-Dazs and Ben & Jerry's. So they also scoop like regular ice cream, but they're indistinguishable from regular ice cream, but they are in fact keto. So there's the keto ice cream scoop, the keto crock pot, because everybody needs meals that they can eat every day that don't take them a mountain of time.
Yeah.
So I worked very hard with the keto crock pot to make sure that when I was researching for this cookbook, I noticed that a lot of the regular crockpot recipes actually took like half an hour on the front end and or half an hour on the back end. And I'm like, okay, so how does that help?
Right.
So I was very, very mindful about making sure that, the prep was 5 minutes and the finishing was like either 0 or 5 minutes at the end. So they really would help people to save time. Because, there's a lot of parents who both work. There's a lot of single parents who work, and you really need, and a lot of people who come to keto are so used to eating fast food that finding time to cook or having to cook is a whole new thing. So the keto crockpot was really to provide 2 months of really delicious keto dinners that nobody would have to work hard for or think much about. Then there's the keto soup bowl. I discovered that people really, really, really love soup. And the other great thing about soup is that you can make it in big batches, portion it out, freeze it. And so you can have a freezer full of instant heatable keto dinners like in your freezer, or you can make batches, put them in portions, take them to lunch with you. They're portable. You can heat them up in the microwave, whatever. So the keto soup bowl. There's Keto for the Holidays, which of course we're recording this in November. Keto for the Holidays is a book that my goal behind that was I didn't want people to survive the holidays. I wanted people to thrive through the holidays. So like you can come out, you can wake up on January 1st and actually weigh less or actually feel better, not worse, which is what most people eating a regular diet do. So, and the keto for the holidays has everything in it. It has breakfast recipes, it has appetizers, entrees, sides, desserts, beverages, and it even has a section at the end on what to do with those leftover turkey. So there's a bunch of leftover turkey recipes at the end. So, perfect. And there's all the desserts. There's your chocolate cream tart. There's chocolate rum truffles. There's pecan pie, pumpkin pie, sugar cookies. There's eggnog ice cream. There's all the things. So you really do not, anyone that's worried about, especially if this is your first keto holiday, you may be looking at it like a deer in the headlights going, how am I going to get through this and stay keto? My hope for writing this book was that all you need, this book, just make everything in this book and your holidays are completely covered. You don't have to search Pinterest. You don't have to have fails because the recipes don't work. You know everything's going to taste delicious. You could just make those things and call it good. Then what am I forgetting? But I think that drinks, beverages is one of the places where people sabotage themselves on keto because somehow we don't think about beverages as food. So, it's just a drink, and it doesn't register. We don't think about the carbs or whatever else might be in it in the same way as we do when we're eating food. So, and I hate drinking water. And so for me, that book was kind of a bit of a revelation because now there's 101 different ways that I can keep hydrated and still have the most delicious things. So there's lattes, there's hot chocolates, there's teas, there's infused waters, there's frappes. So there's the iced frappe drinks. There's, I've forgotten the name. There's some gorgeous, lasses, which are yogurt drinks. There's like a whole book full of every drink. There's also a section on mocktails. If you want to join in the party, but you don't want to blow your ketones, then there's mocktails. There's all the things in there. And then the last one is actually, it's not just a cookbook. It's called Kick-Ass Keto, and it's really a beginner's guide. If you don't know where to start, it has the front section explains what keto is, what you need to do, how it all works. And then the rest of the book is a 28-day meal plan. And I did all of the recipes for that. So there's 28 days of delicious, really simple, really easy recipes and a 28-day meal plan. So it's really a 28-day Kickstarter quick start guide. So those are the 6 I have. So I have a website called carriebrown.com, Carrie, brown.com, and actually the homepage you will see there's all the cookbooks are there. So that's the easiest way to just head there. They're all available in a physical paperback and also digital. The digitals are a lot cheaper. And I did digitals. They're actually PDFs, so they can be downloaded to and read on any device. You can even send the PDFs to a Kindle to read them on a Kindle. They're much, much cheaper because I wanted the recipes to be available to as many people as possible. And, some people simply don't have the funds. So I created the PDFs to allow more people to be able to benefit from what I do. I honestly, if I had $1 million, I would just I'd stop selling the cookbooks and I'd just post all the recipes on my website because I'd love to do it all for free. But my heart would like to do it all for free, but I do still have a few bills to pay. So I have to fund it. So those are my books, but I've kind of, since the whole bipolar thing, I spend quite a lot of time talking about bipolar in the hope that I will help some people start becoming their own detective and looking at root cause of their mental health issues instead of just relying on the traditional methods of seeing a psychiatrist and taking a never-ending and never-increasing range of pharmaceuticals to keep you stable. So I spend a lot of time now. I do a lot of Facebook Lives. I do a Facebook Live with Dr. Ken Berry. I do Facebook Lives with all sorts of other people just to try and get the word out there. And now I'm starting to talk about Lyme because I've now healed my Lyme. So I'm going to start talking about that. I just think it's really, really important for people to understand that we need to stop prescribing for symptoms, and we need to start finding out root cause and treating root cause, because ultimately that's the only way we're really going to get healthy.
Yeah.
And keto helps with a lot of things, and it's a great place to start. But there are some things that you need extra help with, but you need to become your own detective to figure out what they are.
And I love your idea about doing the 23andMe testing at birth. That is genius. I love that.
I just, seriously, if that became a thing before I die, I could then just die and feel like I'm done. That's what I came here to do, and I'm done now, and I can go. I can go and be happy. It would make such a difference to so many people.
Yeah. Well, you could be an
it's
ambassador.
Not just MTHFR. I mean, it's not just MTHFR. I mean, there's all sorts of genetic wrinkles. I have some other genetic wrinkles that we don't have time to talk about. Maybe we'll do a part 3 and we'll talk about my other genetic wrinkles. But there's other things. I'm a cholesterol absorber, and that's a genetic thing. And so I have to tweak. I have to eat more fiber because of that.
Interesting.
A lot of people on keto don't. I do. I can't. Carnivore isn't great for me. I don't feel my best on carnivore, or it turns out that I have a genetic wrinkle that my body works better and I feel better when I eat an amount of fiber. And it's because I genetically absorb cholesterol that most people don't. So there's a bunch of other things like that. But just MTHFR is super, super important because it controls methylation. And there's so many processes that rely on methylation. So if you can't do it, there's the potential for lots and lots of problems. So that's why MTHFR is like my favorite gene to tell people about.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see my report.
So I think they used to, and of course, remember that I did this 3.5 years ago before it was a thing. So they told me 6 weeks, but I think it was back in 4.
Okay.
And then, of course, now there's it's become a thing to get your DNA done. So they're a lot busier. But I have had, so I think they were saying 12 weeks, but I've had a bunch of people do it recently and they've come back really quickly. So I think they've either drafted a bunch more people in to help, or they're just kind of got on top of it now. But for anyone who's thinking about doing it, I must warn you that it takes a lot of spit. It's more work than you might think it's going to be to get the amount of spit you need. Yes, yeah. I think it took me about 20 minutes of work to get.
Oh, great!
And also for anyone listening, and I can send Tracy this so the link can be in the show notes, but. If you send off your DNA, when you get your file back, you're going to download it and you're going to open it up and you're going to go, what the heck? Okay, what does any of this mean? And what do I do with this? And what? And so when you get your results back, there's a number of other websites that you need to upload your DNA file to, and they will then send you consumer-friendly breakdown of what the problems are. So, and I'll send Tracy the link so it can be in the show notes.
Truthfully, now I understand because I've been tested 2 other ways and they all come back gluten sensitive, and now I'm keto, so it doesn't matter. But
so I'm also and I was keto, but I did find out that genetically, I also genetically have a gluten sensitivity. So I can't do gluten. And I found that out on my DNA too. But for me, it actually makes keto easier. When you look at your DNA, when you have actual data that says gluten does a number on you, it's much easier to not eat it.
Right. I agree.
So I was actually I feel super lucky because that really helps me. You know, if I'm tempted by a croissant, I'm like, yeah, no, gluten. No, I really can't do that. And so it actually really helps me when I'm having a weak moment on keto that I don't go there because I have the data that says that, yes, for sure, you cannot eat gluten.
It's crazy at how once you clean up your diet substantially, then when you go off, things happen. Like it's like all hell breaks loose. Like this knuckle right here. So when I remember on Saturday, I told you I went to the movies with my mom. Well, she wanted popcorn. So I'm like, cool, let's get some popcorn. I haven't had popcorn in, God, I couldn't even remember how long. And so we had popcorn at the movies. Because I look at my keto as a lifestyle. And so if I go off, once in a while, I don't really care. I don't beat myself up about it. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll have popcorn. So anyways, long story short, the next day I wake up, this thumb, which is my brake hand for my mountain bike, is in so much pain that just doing simple things, I'm like, that's got to be either the popcorn or the canola oil that they popped it in or, one of those. But isn't that crazy? And it's been 2 days and it still hurts.
It's kind of magical how sensitive your body becomes when you've cleaned it out. And you get instant feedback. I'm very careful when I eat out because of the gluten, but I will know the next day if I was inadvertently glutened in a sauce at a restaurant, or if they said there was no gluten and it did, I will know because I will get patches of eczema on my face. Every time. So I know if I've been inadvertently glutened, because my body has now become so reactive to things that I'm sensitive to that it's super cool because it means you can immediately go, okay, that was that. I need to stay away from that. Or, that made me feel really good, or, whatever. So it becomes a really, really good tool to help you to navigate what you can and what you can't eat.
Oh, and it really strengthens your commitment. Like, I don't know if I will ever eat popcorn at a movie again, because that moment of worth the pain that this has caused for now 2 whole days. Right. By the way, I found this group on Facebook, which I think you would like. It's called Smart Detox with Niacin and Sauna Protocol. Anyways, that's what I'm doing this week just to get myself cleaned up. So, okay, so we're running out of time. I've got to get to work.
That is the best way, carriebrown.com, because it links, all my social media links are there. I do have a really cool group on Facebook, which is called The Keto Kitchen with Carrie Brown. And it's facebook.com/groups/The Keto Kitchen. So come join us in there. It's a very, very, very nice group. Very supportive, very upbeat, all keto. I have a team of fantastic admins who will help you navigate all the things, will point you towards the good recipes and away from the bad recipes, and help you out if you're struggling. We also do a lot of motivational stuff in there to try and help people keep, because it's all about mindset, right? It's hard to stick to anything good if your mind's in the wrong place. And also my Facebook wall too. I'm friends with everybody because I love everybody. So, you can come out and hang with me there, but I have a YouTube, which is The Real Carrie Brown. I have an IG of The Real Carrie Brown. I have everything, Twitter, all the things. So you can find me all over social media. But the best place to start is carriebrown.com. My favorite recipe. Yikes. My favorite recipe. I probably the cheesy biscuits, which is free, available on my blog. It's the thing that if I am having a bread craving moment. A lot of people will tell you that this is the thing that best halts their bread cravings is my cheesy biscuits. So they're super simple to make, 10 minutes in the oven. If I'm struggling with cravings, it's the cheesy biscuits is my go-to. So.
Wow, wasn't that a great interview? I hope you guys enjoyed both parts 1 and part 2. I learned so much from her. And my favorite little tidbit was the great idea she had about genetic testing for 23andMe for infants, for newborn babies. I mean, can you just imagine what a kickstart on a healthy lifestyle journey that would give those sweet little babies? I just think that's something that should be embedded in every single birth in our country. So anyways, I hope you love the show. Please head on over and check out the show notes at bewellbeketo.com. And if you love the episode, please consider sharing it with your friends so that they can also be encouraged by Carrie's healing journey. If you want to be on the show yourself or know somebody who would make a great guest, please contact me at Tracy with 2 E's at highenergygirl.com. So go out and make it a great day, you guys.